Welcome to Mentor. I'm Marco Bertozzi.
And I'm Rachel Forde.
We're the founders of the TheZoo.London Consulting Collective and Executive Search business. And our podcast
is all about sharing hard-earned wisdom from those people who've been there and done it and are here to guide you.
Insights you're not going to get in a book, are you?
But you can use them in real life. And as always, we've got another goodie today. We've got Leigh Thomas. We had the privilege to chat to her. She's got an intriguing journey, starting with the classical ballerina. So listen in to hear that. But mainly, just great advice throughout, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, she's currently VP EMEA at Intuit. So lots of big businesses, Mailchimp and Quickbooks and many others. But, you know, she's moved across agencies. She's moved into Meta from agencies. So
she went from
bold moves.
Big tech to ad tech to fintech. Yeah, bold moves. And actually, though, but very straightforward advice in terms of one of the things. And I don't know, do you watch Blue Lights?
No, I didn't know what you were talking about.
So Blue Lights, it's a Northern Ireland TV police program. And there's a saying in it, one of the officers talks about take a beat. And that just means just take a moment, breathe, don't rush in. And I think just that advice of pause, take a beat, really sat with me.
And we've heard it before, but I think it's worth reminding people this idea of be curious. I think it's a very underrated. I always say whenever I do any mentoring, it's like, see beyond your job, find out what's happening.
Yeah, and I think it's also that humility to know that you don't know everything.
Yeah.
So go and find out and work on it. Do your homework, do your research, and actually, even more important, know your numbers.
Know your numbers. That took me right back to the start when we spoke to Karen Stacey.
Oh, yeah.
She said she was all about
on the numbers.
Numbers.
I mean, Leigh even did a course, didn't she, around it? So there's advice, rimming to this. No. There's advice brimming with advice. Well, before that,
let's have a word about our sponsors, shall we? And then we'll get them in. And so Viral Tribe, really, I mean, our journey has been one where we came into creating a podcast where we didn't have a clue, did we? Let's be honest.
We did not.
And Viral Tribe have been...
Should we call them mentors?
Let's call them mentors.
Let's call them. They've been mentors. Because they've really shown us a way. They've been really supportive. They've helped us with creative ideas, obviously the production and promotion. And it's been they've held our hand.
And we're part of a stable of some of the biggest creators in the industry.
Yeah, so I think chart-topping shows and branded content.
We'll soon be there, right?
That's where mentor. We're somewhere there. And today we're in Broadwick Street. There's also another state-of-the-art studio on Wardour Street. And really, from start to finish, they just make the whole process really, I suppose, smooth and stress-free, I'd say. Yeah,
and I think what do they say, the presidents? They say, we endorse this message. We 100% endorse Viral Tribe. So if you're thinking about creating a podcast and using the facilities, or indeed you're a client looking to work with them on branded content, then drop them a line at hello@viraltribe.co.uk and you're going to get 20% off the first 3 months if you use the word mentor.
I think first 3 bookings, but let's
see bookings.
First 3 months. But anyway, that sounds like an incredible deal. So thank you, Viral Tribe. Let's get Leigh in, shall we? Let's get Leigh in.
Today on Mentor, we're joined by Leigh Thomas. And as always, Leigh, we like to read your backgrounds because we don't like to get anything wrong. And so as a leader whose career bridges creativity, technology and transformation, Leigh is currently Vice President for Intuit across EMEA and Director of Intuit UK, official titles. Her mission to help small and medium-sized businesses grow through smarter, data-driven tools while shaping the future of digital growth alongside policymakers. Before joining Intuit, Leigh spent several years at Meta, where she served as VP of Global Partnerships for EMEA, overseeing a $2 billion enterprise portfolio. She introduced new go-to-market models, led through complex reputational challenges, and helped major global brands navigate transformation. I remember all of those stages at the time. Earlier in her career, she led award-winning digital agency Dare as CEO and held senior leadership roles at Saatchi & Saatchi and AMV BBDO, building some of the industry's most recognised client relationships. Beyond her executive life, Leigh is deeply committed to social impact. She serves as trustee of Pennies, a fintech NGO enabling microdonations, and sits on the executive board of Wackle, where she champions representation and mentors senior female leaders. Across her career, Leigh has built a reputation for driving innovation, nurturing talent, and bringing humanity, I think that is very fair to say, into the world of technology-driven marketing, a combination that makes her one of the most inspiring voices in our industry today.
No, wow, what an intro.
What
Lee.
an intro. We
What
like
an
we
intro.
love
We
to
love
get
a
that
good
out.
intro.
We like to get it out
Welcome.
because people are listening, they may know people, they may have heard of them, but they don't necessarily always know everything. So we
And
like
also
to
good for you to hear what you've
Yeah,
achieved. So
what
well
you've
done. And
achieved.
thank you and hello, welcome. You're here, Lee. We're doing it.
I thought we were just going to have a catch up as old friends, honestly.
Well,
we
no,
pushed you
here we're
into a
doing
podcast
intros.
studio.
but we can, and it will be. It's like just people are just listening to. Yeah, we've got a lot to catch up on, haven't we? And
Leigh is one of the few people that we've all stood on the roof of
oh yeah, we have the roof of
Publicis
the
HQ in Champs-Elysees.
Charlotte's.
right by,
oh,
right by the
Many years ago.
yeah, Champs-Elysees, right by the
Yes.
Arc de Triomphe. I
Yeah.
think we also
Executive
did
programme.
manage to get on the executive floor and have a selfie outside
Yeah, there
Maurice
was a-
Levy's. Do you remember with the big lion? Obviously, the big lion. But anyway, that's another story. That's for another day.
Another
That's
day for that one, for sure.
But no, we're really delighted to have you here, Lee, and thank you so much for your time. And we always ask it every week. We know it's quite a lot to ask for a career in 60 seconds, but we do like to get it in your own words. Like, how do you get
And
into
it doesn't have to be
advertising?
60 seconds.
And no, it doesn't. It's just, but if you can just
We
in
always
your own
interrupt
words.
you anyway, so.
Yeah, in your own words, what was your journey, and how did
Okay.
you get here?
Well, thank you for having me. It's
Pleasure.
very lovely to see you
pleasure.
both and to be on this magic podcast. I think it's wonderful what you're doing
Thank
for
you.
the industry,
Thank
for
you.
all of us. So I have been an avid listener. So it's career in 60 seconds. I will try. I started off in Africa, a daughter of two entrepreneurs, much like yourselves. I was supposed to have a very straight career path, because if you're a child of entrepreneurs, they like you to go and study law and do sensible things. Instead, I unfortunately got into the finals of a very prestigious ballet competition when I was 16 called the Prix de Lausanne. So I competed in Lausanne and New York and got into the top 16 in the world, which meant I had this sort of easy way into ballet company. My parents really had to fight with me for 2 years to get me to finish my academics, but I did actually go straight into the ballet company after school.
And ballet was something you always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Kind of,
I mean, at 7 years old, I decided I was going to be a classical dancer, and I worked every day, weekends, all
It's
of
so
that.
tough, isn't it?
It's intense. It's an incredible career, though.
And did you go to Mani Ballet? So, like, where was your inspiration for that? You just felt it inside you, or did you?
This is definitely not going to be 60 seconds. If you already got me talking.
We always do it. you know, like-
Okay,
Fascinating.
no, I'll tell you. What happened was, when I was 5, I was diagnosed with something called femoral anteversion, so they had to break both my legs. And as part of the recovery, I was in plaster Paris for a long period of time. I was in a wheelchair and I was on crutches. And it sounds like such a sob story. I actually really loved that time. I was drawing, I was very creative. I got to read and write, etc., and got very popular with all my friends, got lots of presents. So I don't have a traumatic articulation of the stage of my life, but I do remember trying to learn to walk again because all my muscles had left the legs. And as part of the physiotherapy, my mum was told to put me into a ballet class. And I remember standing there in the ballet class thinking this was the most wonderful thing ever. This beautiful music, this way of expressing yourself through music and dance, and the sheer freedom of recovering my physicality. So yes, I did do, go and watch lots of performances and saw some extraordinary dance. But I think that the real motivation was quite intrinsic, like the ability to move is just such an incredible...
And that freedom, you said.
Yeah, so I loved it from then, and I mean, I was barely walking, and I told my mum I was going to be a dancer, which says a little bit about my grit.
That is
Yeah,
ambitious.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Explains we
a
like
lot,
ambitious
actually.
people on
Yeah,
this
it
podcast.
explains a lot. And then, weirdly, the Prix de Lausanne was massive. I mean, it was a massive competition. Dancers from Royal France, everywhere, all the Americans come and compete. And I think because of my sheer naivety, I wasn't particularly nervous, and I went in and I competed and I did really well. So I obviously built up a fair amount of strength. And then just had this glorious opportunity to do, Balanchine, Rudy Van Danzig. I wasn't a very sort of classical sugar plum fairy type of dancer. I was much more sort of, because I'm tall, high energy, high performance, that sort of dancer. So I was very, very lucky to live out my little childhood dream. Yeah.
So sorry, I know this is
That is
not
the
definitely.
thing.
No.
So then what happened? So then what was the pivot then from ballet to what did you do?
So I was one of those dancers who read a lot, and I was fascinated about the economy and business and commercial. I felt like there was this whole other world that I wasn't seeing up on the casting list for the next ballet. And so I was always reading. I had a group of friends who were doing their MBAs at the time, and I thought, I think there's more to life. And I didn't want to become one of the dancers who retired at 35 and then suddenly struggled to find another career. I actually do a lot of mentoring still for dancers trying to make the transition from dance into other careers. And my dad at the time had been marketing director for Diageo Africa, and he said to me, why did you try going into an agency? Because they'll train you in the job. And so I was very lucky to start at TBWA, Hunt Lascaris.
So you started at the top.
Started right at the bottom.
At the bottom of the top, but at the bottom of it very well.
It was a great agency.
Yeah, great agency.
I literally didn't know how to type.
How old were you at that
Oh,
point?
God, I can't remember. Mid-20s?
Yeah, I didn't get into advertising until 26.
No, I felt like I was quite far behind everyone else. And I suppose that motivated me to work really hard. I was literally in the typing pool. I think I was called a PA. And but I was so excited just to have a paid job that required me going to work every day, and so grateful. And I think as a result, I've always felt that way, actually. It's just incredibly grateful for whatever comes my way career-wise, and threw myself into it. So, great agency, great people to learn from. Also, exciting times, like
best
of
agencies
times.
in those days were just
Well, what year was
full
that
of
then?
energy.
I literally don't. I actually think I forget on purpose what
Oh,
years
right,
these
okay,
were.
fine. Yeah, no,
Because I can't remember, and I'd rather keep it that
You're like,
way.
sorry, yeah,
a
of
long,
course,
long
of
time
course,
ago. But we did work. I also was at Jupiter Drawing Room at that time. We did work for Nike. We were winning awards over Wydens. We were coming to Cannes, getting lauded for our work. Amazing creative talent coming out of Africa. And also, I think what was good in terms of grounding, there was no such thing as the media agency, the Otherline agency, the point of sale agency. We did everything.
Yeah.
I remember building our first website.
God.
So it was because we were so small and entrepreneurial, like we learned all those skills. It was only when I moved to the UK, which was 25 years ago, that I suddenly realized there were different types of agencies. And I was suddenly at Saatchi & Saatchi, or actually Murray McLennan. And Clive Jones gave me my first job in London. I can't imagine why, because I was so green, and got off the boat. And I think it was Murray interviewed me, gave me the job at M&C Saatchi. And because of my accent, I know I sound a lot more English now, but because I was clearly not from here, I ended up doing a lot of global business usually, speak multiple languages, whatnot. And so I ended up doing BA and all sorts. And then the whole career, this is where I'll get really fast.
Yeah.
Whole career in advertising in 2 seconds. Amazing agencies, predominantly in the creative agency sector. Ended up managing director of Saatchi & Saatchi, hanging out at Publicis Exec Group sessions, and then actually ended up running a private agency, an independent agency called Dare, and had the privilege of working with Mark Collier and John Bartle. And they still make me smile, to the greats. And private equity backed. Watching your cash flow every day.
Yeah,
I think you guys can probably relate. That's pretty tricky, and loved it, because that's the point where I started working with engineers and front-end developers and understanding the difference between front-end and it was just a really interesting learning curve. And wrapped that up, sold that, and at that point Facebook came along.
So that went to, was that Oliver?
To Oliver?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
and
worked
they're
with
part of the Brand Tech Group.
Yeah.
So I think the Dare brand continues in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
But at that point, Facebook came along. I think I phoned you, Mark. And
Yeah, we talked.
I've
yeah,
heard.
I remember having coffee with you.
I've got this thing that I'm interviewing for. Is it a proper job? I think I may have said something like
You're a
that.
tech guy, you'll know this.
And it follows 8 years of actually. I thought I knew a bit about digital. I had to relearn everything. If you're working with engineers from Menlo Park or Mountain View, it's sort of an incredibly privileged position to be in. Was brought in, I suppose, because of the strategic marketing capability and being able to engage with big enterprise partners from across Europe, Middle East and Africa. And then just learned a ton around things around working at scale. So things like driving a vertical sales motion across mid-market, small business and the global businesses, bringing together engineering and marketing. This all sounds very weird if
I mean,
I don't know how much of this makes sense because I'm about to go into techie jargon, but trying a vertical go-to-market for actually bringing customer-first solutions and not having to repivot products, but organizing the thinking in such a way that was very easy for certain verticals to buy.
The scale of those organisations and the influence that they have with clients is, just
incredibly
unbelievable, isn't it?
privileged.
Yeah, I mean,
incredibly privileged.
Everyone opens their doors, don't they?
Yeah, you do. It's sort of one of those things which I think keeps you quite humble because you're constantly privileged enough to be invited into pretty much every boardroom.
Yeah.
And I don't take that for granted because I know how hard it was as an agency person to be in those conversations. So you have this immediate opportunity. But on the other hand, you have to check yourself quite regularly because I see a lot of people in tech thinking that they're therefore amazing without recognizing actually the reason you're in those boardrooms is because you've got this incredible transformational product and AI and interesting and really sort of native understanding of what's happening in digital. So you have to remind yourself that it's not you that's successful because you happen to be in a CEO conversation. It's because you've got this incredible platform behind you. So it was a great, great time. And, like agencies, there's ups and downs of the tech sector. There's a bit of Apple coming in and completely making us blind for a while, which was quite interesting. And then recently, just over a year ago, got invited to come and speak to Intuit, which again is a massive pivot because now it's a general management position looking after and expanding the business outside the US. They've been predominantly US focused to date. You'll know some of the products like Quickbooks or Mailchimp. 100 million customers around the world, based in Mountain View, one of the great tech companies, been around 40 years. And they've made the shift to AI in the last couple of years, incredibly fast pace. But the thing that I think I find most fascinating about it is this genuine customer obsession. Like small and mid-sized businesses are the reason we do what we do. I'm actually here to try and work out how I can increase your productivity.
Thank you. But no, we're already on QuickBooks. And with those invoices, we love sending out invoices.
Oh, we love it. It's our favourite bit.
And Mailchimp is it does. I mean, yes, Intuit makes it so much easier, doesn't it? No,
well, I'll come and we'll have a proper conversation around that. But hopefully it does.
Wow, fintech is a.
And when you look across all that, and we've talked at various times across the years at these different junctures, and I've never, just from the outside, I've never really had any sort of doubt that you would do well in those, just because you always I think the way you approach things is quite, you're quite methodical. You think big, I think, you look for the bigger. But when you look back on all that, where did that boldness to pivot come from? Is that just built into your character? Did you have to learn that along the way? Did you sort of push yourself out of your comfort zone? What was the feeling when you were making these agency to tech platform to fintech to and what did you learn? I guess now if there's people listening who are thinking of joining Meta or Google or, what did you learn along the way that you feel has helped you do that?
It's a big question. I would say, I see this in people around the world. I actually think that there's a sort of a modern conscious type of leadership that's doing particularly well. And what I would observe from others, not necessarily self-reflect, it's very hard to call it on yourself, isn't it? I would say the people who are most curious and hungry to learn are the ones who really do well. I remember, I think I was in the 6th week I was at Facebook at the time, going into a meeting with Mark, and we were a few sort of executives that just joined the business. And someone asked exactly that question, like, what is it that how did we get into this business? What are you looking for? And he said, we get the MIT graduates, we get all of that stuff. That's not actually a predictor of success in our business. What is a great predictor of success is hunger to learn. And if I think back on my life, I think I've always been incredibly curious and been in environments where that ability to learn and suck up as much information as you can has just been a gift that's been given to me. And
curiousness comes up a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, it came up last week with Stephen Moore, and it's like like you say, that's that thirst and hunger to learn, to get in. It pushes you on because I suppose you never settle in a way. There's always something more you can do to get better.
And actually, now I think about it, your comment about just because you get to talk to a CEO doesn't mean your
made
job's
it.
done.
No.
Steve Moran was saying, wasn't he? He was like, prepare more than anyone else, know the business better than anyone else, like, do that. And I think that's one of those examples, because careful what you wish for, because we would have salespeople at Spotify who'd love to, on paper, would love to speak to a CEO, but then if they walked in the room, they would be, completely
well
out of your
prepared.
depth.
You've got to do the work.
Yeah.
I mean, the other word I would say, I often have, sometimes as not necessarily compliment, the other word that people have used around me is humility.
And I was going to say humble.
And
you are very humble.
Yeah, I don't necessarily try and be anything. I just try and be myself. But I think humility is a really good, when people say that to me, I'm really touched. And I think the reason I like the concept of humility is that you do the work, but also it comes from this, I like etymology. Those people who know me well know this, but it comes from the word, humilist comes from the word grounded, of the ground. And I think if you keep yourself grounded, know your work, know what's going on, understand your data, do all the prep, keep yourself real. I think the opportunity then to learn and listen and grow becomes disproportionately available to you. So I'm not trying to say I have a magic formula for what's happened in my life, but I've been very blessed to have been in the right place at the right time with the right people often. So there's a little bit of being on the right side of history, being in tech at a time when tech is really important. Some of that is, no one could have designed that. But then being in those situations and going, I am so privileged. How am I going to make the most of it is kind of what's kept me going. It still keeps me going.
You can teach that or not? Like if
teach
there's
humility.
25, can you teach someone to be humble, or they're either or?
I think it's a bit like that. There's no I in team. It's like, you don't be like me, myself, and I. Like, look, we're just part of a bigger system, and it's about how you work together and collaborate. The other, I was thinking about something else then around that. Actually, yes, serendipity does play a part. I'm a massive fan of it, but also. You've got to be open to that. You've got to be, well, I say open yourself up to the universe, but that's a bit weird. But I just mean you've got to look up. You've got to look up, and you've got to see the opportunity, and then be willing to go for that opportunity with some humility, because you might not always get there. Yeah. But you can be well prepared and give it a try. Yeah. Rather than, I think, rather than that ego driven of, I'm just going to, I think the world owes me a living. No, it doesn't. You have to work very hard to get to a living.
But would you describe, we were talking about ambition recently, and, a lot of people, I think generally speaking, ambition is considered a good thing. Like, it's good to be ambitious. But there's a fine line, isn't there? We've all had people in our teams who are like, promote me, I should be promoted, and it's quite hard getting that balance. Yeah. Where does ambition sort of fit into your career?
As soon as you started me thinking about being a dancer again, I think it's probably in that, like, you don't get to be elegantly flying through life. There's so much grit that has to come with that, right? So I think firstly I'd say there is within me like a hunger to be excellent, and for better or for worse, by the way, some days it's very tiring. I hold myself to a very high bar, and therefore I am ambitious, I am competitive. I did want to get into the top 16 in the world, and I do like having the ability to think boldly and act on that, and have the ability to operate at scale and do big things. Like, it's exciting. Exactly. Not everyone's built that way, though. And so I don't judge anyone who perhaps thinks ambition is not necessarily for them. I think there's different ways of being ambitious.
But it's doing it properly, isn't it? You can be ambitious as long as you're, as you say, doing the work.
Arrogance. It's like, if you put the graft in, it's like, I'm thinking about when you said about ballet, like, think about how many bloody toes you had and how much. I'm thinking it's really hard work. Real hard work goes into. But again, it's like, don't think if you put the graft in and display yourself as being as being the best that you can be, then rather than just saying I want a promotion. I mean, I think it's that, just prove it. Don't say type of thing. Actions speak way more than words. I'm always a little bit, when people on my team come to me and say I want to be promoted, that's my goal, that's my ambition. I always go, isn't that a little bit unambitious? Like a title? Or a 5%, 10%, 20% raise? Isn't that a little bit unambitious? Like, don't you want to go and do something that's truly meaningful? And I think as you get older, that becomes a little bit more prevalent, isn't it? It's like, okay, what does ambition mean for me now? Of it, aren't we? Being a CEO is not what I'm after. Making sure there's enough money and
commercial success as an outcome of what I do is really important because I want my kids. I'm very motivated. My family, we've got grandparents, we've got the children. That's the stuff that really keeps me up at night. It's like making sure everyone's good.
Yeah.
But I'm much more motivated by, what I love about what I do now is we serve people like you, like you're entrepreneurs out there putting yourselves on the line.
Yeah, we're doing something.
How cool is that? Like in being able to put AI tools into your hand, like that kind of motivation keeps me going.
Yeah.
Going for a VP title or whatever the fancy title is, or that is unambitious to me. Like that is almost an outcome of doing good things.
And this isn't a sort of fishing question, but
fish away. I think that's why I'm here.
Does it feel? Do you feel that now you're dealing with entrepreneurs and you're dealing with kind of real life people's real lives and businesses? Does it feel more meaningful than some other stuff you've done before, or is it just different?
Helping people like me and Marco, how does that feel?
I do love that. I very much hope we are helping you. No, look, my parents were entrepreneurs. My mum and dad came from there's literally a railway line in our hometown, and if you live on the one side, it's not particularly well off, and if you live on the
other side of the tracks.
Yeah, we came from the wrong side of the tracks, and so my my dad built up a business. He had a shop. He was a shopkeeper basically, and my mum, I have a very real memory of her sitting with a ledger, writing down how much they'd spent on milk that week and newspapers, and I have such a distinct memory of that. And so just the idea that there are tools that can democratize and like bring opportunity to these small businesses, a very intrinsic motivator. And to see people not be caught up with admin and doing the physical ledger anymore, but actually going out and doing good things in the world and spending more time doing this sort of stuff is very motivating. And I do fundamentally believe small businesses and mid-sized businesses can compete with enterprises soon. I think that is what's happening with AI.
Because it's democratization of the tools.
Super exciting. Can you imagine doing your marketing and having, your books and your taxes and all automatically done for you, so you're freed up to go and do what you need to do in the world. And I think that's pretty motivating.
Colin Gottlieb was saying, because everyone's obviously fearful of. There's so much discussion about fearing AI. But he was saying, like, there's never been a better time, to start a business. In that sense,
never.
The tools that are now at your disposal to help you scale, to help you market, to are incredible.
And because I mean, there are a lot of people that are kind of a similar, I say, era to us in advertising, that may be thinking about coming out of their careers and starting. So I feel that there's a lot of people at our stage, starting our own businesses. But what are the stats in around? Because obviously, if entrepreneurs, is it a massive mix across demographics in terms of your client base?
Yeah, I mean, I think technically 1 in 5 people in the UK are using our products.
Wow.
Because if you're not using Mailchimp or Quickbooks, you're probably, using a close competitor. I will say our products are about to get significantly better because that's what we're doing, especially with AI. What I would observe is it is the backbone of the economy. It's 85% of the economy relies on people like yourselves going out there and doing what you do. Yeah. I would say the current economic situation and the announcements next week, I think, are going to make a significant difference to us all. And I very much hope at the heart of that is small and mid-sized businesses, because they are feeling pressure. 1 in 5 go out of business, or it's productivity is what's just holding them back. If you're spending all your time doing emails, invoices, all that life admin, it's low value instead of doing the stuff that you're actually incredibly talented at doing, especially of your seniority and your qualifications. So there's a lot of risk in doing it, but at the same time, I think now is probably a better time than ever. I would say if you in big enterprises, AI you can invest in and it's all a big thing and you can go and do your AI programs. But the people who are advancing most of AI, as we observe across our customer base, are the entrepreneurs. Yeah. They're fearless. They're out there. You're trying new things. You probably...
Well, we're talking about, we've got several agents for several different things, but it joins everything up. I mean, it's definitely transformed our business just in 2.5 years, hasn't it?
God,
But
you're probably working about 7 to 25 different apps though. and they probably don't speak to each other.
Yeah, we've got a few. And all hours as well. I mean, being an entrepreneur, is, it's like you just, you don't, you're never
rest.
off, but you're in charge of your own destiny, which does feel good.
Yeah.
But this is not about us. This is
Go
about
on, then
you.
I was going to interview you now.
This is about you, Leigh. And I'm thinking about, because you talked about like being, you have made brave moves and bold moves, and also you've. You are very humble about how you've got those opportunities, been in the right place at the right time. But I suppose at those points of maybe those pivot points or just moments in your career, as we all call mentor, outside of obviously Mark, you've mentioned, and John Bartle you've mentioned as a mentor. Are there any other mentors that you'd like to give a bit of a shout out and kind of what they helped, a time or what advice they gave you, or just literally a thank you, you helped me at that time?
Oh, I think so many. I never want to underestimate the impact John Bartle's had on my life. I don't want to just gloss past him. To actually, when you in advertising get mentoring from the quality and the caliber of a human being that he is, and he does it so generously, has been a game changer for me. Because I don't think I would have learned as much about leadership. That all my principles I use as leader were born of that quality of leadership between him and Mark Collier. I would say
that's when you were at Dare.
Yeah. That's learning from the very best.
Can you give us a couple of examples? What things that you sort of live by as a leader, from a leadership perspective?
People first. Really knowing your people. Really understanding what motivates people and how to really care for your people. To the extent that no matter how tough it is, you're always there in the trenches with them. I think that's a very John Bartle, Mark Collier thing. It was all about
and is
people.
that recognising the sort of differences between them as well?
Yeah. So inclusive leadership, and I think situational leadership as well, where what motivates Rachel will probably be very different to you, and having a leader who can unlock the best in you and see the best in you. And sometimes that's quite difficult with some of the teams. If you take those principles, I want to see someone really go to the full extent of their potential. And sometimes that's quite scary. Not everyone wants to go to the full extent of their potential, but that is the kind of quality of the leadership that John and Mark...
and it's quite hard to do, because I think...
It's very hard to do.
Coaches will tell you, you've got to not just appeal to the people that are like you, you've got to appeal to the people that
are not like you.
Are not like you.
More important.
And, that was my number one feedback on coaching. Was you're very good at motivating people who are like you. You're no good at motivating people who aren't you.
No.
And I'd go, well, that's because they're shit.
Well, no, that's because that's you. But that's the whole thing of diversity. I thought you need diverse teams, and diverse teams have different needs and motivations.
Statistically much more likely to succeed.
Marco. Remind me, how long were you at Spotify for, Marco?
But even things like imposter syndrome, because Marco, you just made me think of this. A lot of the very best coaching I got from these gentlemen was around imposter syndrome. And they actually welcomed and hired people who suffered from imposter syndrome quite regularly, because these are the people who want to go and extend themselves and push themselves out of their comfort zone. It's those people who think they've got it all.
Well, the ego-driven ones.
The ego-driven ones, generally, without trying to sort of put too much of a sort of superficial lens on it, generally, if you've got someone who's quite keen to learn and interested in learning and stretching themselves and doesn't have the ego in the way, they're much more likely to extend themselves than someone who thinks they've got it all nailed. So that's a very John Bartle bit of advice. I would say Kerry Glazer.
Yeah, we love Kerry.
Kerry's been extraordinary, and I think there's a whole generation of women in our industry who owe a debt of gratitude to Kerry.
Should get Kerry on, actually.
You should. I think she's doing some wonderful stuff. Liz Wilson's another one. I've got a whole pack of wacklers. I would say there is a gentleman in who's of Mountain View now, who I won't mention for professionalism, but who does do some mentoring with me now. And again, just awoke me to reminded me of quite fundamentals. You're thinking if you're working with technology people, engineers, they're going to give you completely different advice. But this is one of the all-time greats. And this person's advice was, really understand what your customers value. Have you spent enough time listening to your customers, understanding what they value about the product, the team, And I was like, that's such a fundamental piece of advice. But that's the kind of advice and mentoring over the years that's made a difference, because you can build an entire business plan around your customer value. And I wonder in agency land these days, or in technology
Yeah.
businesses as well. How many people are actually doing that? You know,
Well, it's taking that step back and saying, well, actually, why are we all here? We're only here. We're here because of the customer. So
That's
we
it.
don't surround. I mean, yeah,
That's it.
Well, it's
in tough times, people can just forget and get a bit blind, can't they, to actually what they're trying to achieve.
So busy with the
Just-
internal
yeah, this is
and
it.
the KPIs.
well, that's the enemy
and
of all senior roles, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
that you get dragged internally. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have time to do that. You once were talking about the fact that, you know, you can, and I imagine at somewhere like Meta that was very easy as well, was you can get lots of smart people on a team, but getting them to actually work together and collaborate is actually the art of,
Yes.
you know, leadership. Is that something you've sort of focused on quite hard to think about how the chemistry of these people work as much as
Yes.
are they good at what they do?
Yes. I mean, I love that part of leadership, actually. It's like trying to work out how you create a team of very diverse characters, very diverse skill sets, particularly in tech companies where you've got product engineers and PMs, and you've got to put them alongside marketers and sales folk and analysts. And it's such a diverse group of people that I have to try and encourage to work in one direction. But I think that becomes quite, you know, if you can nail that, that becomes a superpower.
Yeah.
Because the individual functions are never going to be as strong as the alignment against some bigger vision, and then setting in place, you know, the commercial rigor, the operation, it sounds very boring. But I've learned over time that really the data-driven arguments, the understanding how it all fits together, how you get the systems working together, as well as motivating the intrinsics of the human being, that's when the magic happens. And I think that's probably what I do now. If I had to try and describe my job, because my mum still doesn't understand what I do.
No, never does mine.
Bless her, if she listens to this, sorry, Mum.
Rachel dragged her mum along to one of our events.
I did. She came to listen to Mentor live. Yeah.
Oh, she must be so proud.
Well, she still doesn't know what I do.
I'm still trying to explain it. But if I wasn't thinking of my mom, it would probably be something like my job is to set a very clear, aligned vision to make that entirely the basis of what everybody's in line to go and deliver against.
Yeah.
That's probably the best explanation of what I do.
Are you, sorry, I didn't ask at the start. So in terms of your responsibilities there, what sort of teams have you got oversight? Like, who are you bringing together as a leadership team?
It's classic big tech, isn't it? It's product partnerships, PM, product marketing itself, sales, small, mid-sized.
Yeah.
So
do
you have agency engagement?
I do. I do. I'm not a CMO, and I will say I have a huge amount of respect for modern CMOs. But no, we do have an agency ecosystem. We have a whole lot of third parties that work with us, but the agency ecosystem is a really disproportionately important part of it.
Top tip for agencies nowadays?
Don't be too hard on yourselves. Like, there's such a necessary and vital part that they play. And I work for a big American tech company, and we spend a lot on agencies. So we're probably one of the big corporates that, certainly in the US and increasingly outside of the US, we're taken seriously, right? So it's probably different than if you're an indie, where it is more difficult to get hold of these big corporates because you've got the universal JBPs and all that good stuff happening on. But I can't tell you how much you need a good agency and how important that is. You're trying to manage your fixed costs. You don't want to increase your fixed costs, so you have your outsource costs, and agencies bring in and are awash with the most extraordinary talent. And I hear all the narrative in the industry right now, and I will say, like, we cannot need an agent. Like, I can't tell you how important it is to have the right people sat at the table with us. So one, just recognize your own importance, but be good partners, like really understand our businesses, like really challenge our thinking. I find it really odd, having been for years in service of partners, to find people just agreeing with everything I say, which is really worrying.
You want the diversity. You want the diversity of thought. You want that.
You
fresh
want someone to go, well, actually,
is that
right?
and that is partnership versus just being a supplier, isn't it? Like, you again, you know, when you talked about we're all in this together. Yeah, that's the partner. That's the best partnership when there's a client and agency. We're in this together. Yeah, and we're thinking about your business as much as you are. Yeah, you know, because it's like there's not enough hours in the day. No. But what was it like then moving from obviously big tech to fintech, or what's?
Yeah, I think we're still probably big tech. We do have a lot of FMS products, as in the core of the business is still the QuickBooks, but it's TurboTax and it's Credit Karma and all of those as well.
Right.
And then you've got Mailchimp, which is more of a MarTech product.
Yes, yeah. Sure.
So what's really interesting though is the shift from sort of the meta MarTech type of the world to what is much more of a SaaS play. And what I'm finding super interesting is how AI is disrupting everything about a SaaS, right? And so we're very, very lucky in that Suzanne Godowski, who's the CEO of Intuit, 7 years ago we are going to build an AI end-to-end platform. And that was way before the curve of AI became the name du jour.
Yeah.
And he truly understood what AI was, as in, I think some people still think AI is like ChatGPT, or, he truly understood that. And with 100 million customers worth of data and something like 500 different bytes of unique data per individual, where you've got people's really precious financial data, their marketing data, industry level outcomes from that. There's a lot at stake, but that carefully curated data is the source of really, really strong LLMs, which have been built over the last 6-7 years.
Yeah.
That is now becoming the underpinning of us able to ride the wave of what's happening. We've just announced a partnership with OpenAI, so that again, all of that, if you're a marketer and a small business and you want to do your marketing strategy, you can literally use a bit of conversational UI, products TBD on the roadmap. I'll let you know when it comes to
have an early
but what is the right, this is the industry I'm in, can you tell me what's happening in this locale, in this geography? Tell me how I should think about my marketing, tell me how I should think about my content strategy, SMS, WhatsApp, etc., and bring it all together for me. And actually I need to send my invoices or by return. You know what, I'm a small business and I've got to manage my books and I've got to do my taxes on time, but I also need to look after my customers and grow my customer base. Those tools now all become a very seamless experience. And that's the work that's been happening for the last 7 years. So the platform's just launched. We're on day one.
Wow.
And it's coming together. It's super interesting because that is not SaaS as it used to be, right?
I think
this is
not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but I think tax is the interesting link with QuickBooks, for example, because the question you want to say is like, we're 1 quarter out from the end of the year. How can we maximize our tax, tax efficiency based on what we've been doing? What would you recommend? All of that stuff becomes
because we just scratch our heads, don't we, and think what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But
you need a little bit of agentic AI.
I can't remember.
I need to get you on the new platform.
We'll get on that new. Thank you, Leigh.
Yeah.
But I can't remember who it was. I don't know. It's Colin Gottlieb or Sir Martin Sorrell, but when
you're hanging out, it's very important.
He said, we said, what does AI mean? And I think maybe it was Colin. He said, AI means more holidays. And it's like, well, actually, if actually,
it's Sir Martin Sorrell.
Was it Sir Martin Sorrell? So
Yeah.
actually,
more holidays.
Well, listen, I'm Judith Charm. Everyone that's my nickname. So if we can have more holidays, then I mean, not to be scared of it, but no, that is fascinating.
And the move from sales, from agency to sales, because that's the other one that not many people, in the grand scheme of things, not that many senior people go from agency to sales.
No,
we had Don Williams. He went from Dentsu to Mail Metro Media.
Yeah.
But he said in his first year he wanted to hand his notice in. He used to go home to his wife and say, I really need to leave, and she said, get back in there. And then actually,
I think my husband's done that to me a few times.
Because we do. But it's because it is a bit like that fire hose moment. From agency to sales, what was basically a dare to Meta, wasn't it? Isn't it? Yeah.
I suppose I think everyone's in sales in some way, shape or form.
Well, yeah, true. Cheers.
I remember my dad saying that to me when I was very young. If you can do sales, you can do anything. And it's I would say agencies are excellent at sales. If you think about Saatchi training, right? Most of us have been trained through the old Saatchi system, but actually what that was all about was understanding your client's business, reading the annual reports, making sure you understood everything, having equity in your client's businesses, literally buying equity. I remember we used to do that. Having that sort of understanding your client is what great sales is. And I never have thought of myself as a salesperson. It's really ironic. In fact, I've always tried to avoid the idea of enterprise sales because I always feel like I'm trying to solve my customer's problem. But then what you realize is you get a little bit less hung up on titles. That's what sales does. You really try to, if you can solve people's problems, they'll keep coming back for more. So I don't have any problem with being a salesperson. I think agencies train excellent salespeople. I wish they would incentivize salespeople to the extent that perhaps the platforms do, because and it is brutal. Like the week in, week out drills are full on, and you have to know your numbers, and you have to be out there, and you have to have the hustle. I'm quite lucky because I have a GM role, so it's teams
Yeah.
working with me. But
Yeah,
I have to be in the in the weeds with them in order to facilitate that. And I just think it's a very interesting job. I think in Meta it was particularly challenging because there were things like Cambridge Analytica or data problems or some other sort of there was always a crisis.
Yes.
So that was an interesting learning as to how to show up when actually no one wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
That's quite an interesting sales technique.
Yeah.
I think I can imagine that was an interesting time. It'd be like working
And all
at
your
X
friends
now,
in
I
agencies
imagine.
not
Yeah.
wanting to speak to you, because
Yeah.
that happened as well. Like there was definitely a bit of like, oh, you've gone onto the dark side from very dear friends.
It's a shame because
It is a shame.
It is. It's more focused. The thing I found was everyone is pointing in the same direction, give or take. Right?
Yeah.
They all know why they're there. They're to sell whatever the
Yeah.
company
No,
is.
they're to solve clients' problems.
Yeah.
There we go.
Through sales. And but it was the number. I always found it was the big difference with agency was the numbers, i.e., as you say, it's a rolling number. It never ends. Every quarter rolls into the next.
Yeah.
There's no respite from it. They're weekly. That was the big thing for me because the rest of it I found quite comfortable in a way because I knew how agencies worked and you just chatted to them and worked out what they were, But the numbers stuff, that was a different.
I think you have to love numbers.
Yes.
Like that's the one piece of advice I wish, more people would take more seriously. I think Carolyn McCall said that to me actually in the Spirit of the Mentor podcast. She didn't say it to me. I think she said it to a few of us. So you have to learn to love the numbers. I was so worried about it. I went off and did an Oxford University course on financial management because I actually wanted to make sure that when I was showing up in front of a CFO, that I was credible.
Yeah.
And I have found that to be one of the fastest accelerants of your career as well.
Yeah.
If you're able to speak the language
That's a tip.
of...
That's a big tip.
Yeah. Never underestimate the power of how data and numbers and understanding of those shapes that come through the numbers can help inform better decisions, which makes you a better leader. And if your business is growing, then you can look after people better. But it all comes back to like really basics of making your finance director your best friend.
Yeah.
Understanding every single detail of that day in, day out number. And in SaaS, that's even more difficult. In fact, somebody asked me the other day if I felt good about the move to Intuit. And I will actually say it was probably the best career move I've made. Why? Because I've learned to be so good at the numbers. You have to be good at the numbers. If you earn every single customer, keeping them, you work even harder. And if you're not doing that, it shows up in your numbers within the week.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
that's your curiosity and like making sure you're well prepared.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
And that is really...
And it's exciting when it comes right.
Well, yeah.
There's some weeks that it's not so exciting.
Yeah, the highs are highs and the lows are
Yeah.
lows, we say. But
Yeah.
and in terms of you've talked about that some mentorship and advice. One of the questions we do ask every week is around, was there a magpie moment or something that you saw that you thought, wow, I'm going to steal that with pride, that somebody could take away with them from today? So it could have just been the leadership lessons that you learned, or was there something else where even a phrase? I mean, I love a phrase. Like,
You do love
I
a
do
phrase.
You like a phrase.
Like, is it? I say to Marco all the time because he's got
One-liners.
ideas. Let's do this. I'm going. Is the juice worth the squeeze? So that's one of my favourites. So that's
basically.
And I actually
telling
stole
me to
that.
shut
I
up.
stole that from my Just Eat client actually.
Yeah.
So I did steal that with pride. Is there anything that could even be a saying that you've heard somebody say, or we can come back to it. We can come back to it.
I would say don't. It's similar to you, which is don't. And it was one of those lemon posters that stay with you in the Facebook offices, but it's one I really loved. Is what would you do if you weren't afraid?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I find that very interesting because if you really ask yourself that question, you're like, oh, I'm being not very bold at all.
Actually, we do another one from Facebook. We do this quite a lot. We move fast and we break things.
Oh no, don't do that.
I'm not sure that.
I think we had to change that to move fast with stable infrastructure.
Yeah. That's just our personal lives. We do that.
Yeah,
Not in business. We don't do that in business.
Did have a few good posters that place, but I do. I think it was very Cheryl. Actually, I think she might have
Yeah.
been the originator. The other thing I will say is, and this is really stays with me, is speak up. You know, I remember Cheryl doing an audience with about 100 CEOs, and that it was one of those moments I was really listening to her, and she asked the audience, like, of this audience, who knows what's going wrong in the business at the moment? And all of them put their hands up because you all know what's going wrong in a business. You can see it, right? No matter what level you're in and in what business. And then she said, okay, so of you, who's actually explained to your manager what you're seeing that is wrong in the business at the moment? And about 2 people put up their hands. And I think
as in their above manager, their line
manager.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's actually spoken up about what they're seeing that is actually challenging and not right and not durable. And very few people speak up.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite, probably career limiting things on some occasions, but I think is really with good intent and with respect is the encouragement to speak up.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's that psychological safety, isn't it? Because actually we had Nick Beaton, ex-CEO of ASOS, and he said, I want my teams to tell me what's going wrong.
Yeah.
Not what's going right. Because I can't, yes, everybody wants to tell you what's good, but actually I can only help what's going wrong.
Unless I know exactly what's going on.
So but you do need psychological safety. And I think in the current environment, that's very hard because people are a little bit
And I think
scared.
in the US, people are a bit more... respectful is the wrong word. They don't push back on their bosses as much probably as they do in Europe. We discussed it with Bruce, didn't we, in his experiences at Twitter. So I think that psychological safety is important to have because, as you say, it can be career limiting if it's not done in the right way or you've got the wrong kind of
respectfully.
And
I don't know if I make the difference between US companies and maybe I've been working with American companies too long. I actually think that's one of the great things about them is, you know, you sit with some of these legends and they do want to know what's actually going on.
That's interesting.
The great leaders, you know.
Well, that's probably why they're great leaders. They're willing to listen.
And there's not all of them either.
And that's how you can progress. You can't innovate and progress. You have to make some mistakes along the way. But you can make very big mistakes.
Yes, you can.
We ask that every week as well, don't we?
Big mistake.
Yes. What was your biggest F-up?
There's been many.
Well... Choose your biggest. And what was the story? Set the scene, Lee. Where were you?
It's just like one of those actual stories rather than a theme.
Come on,
come on,
tell us where were we? We'll go back with you, Lee. It can be like therapy.
I just think it was one of those great moments. I think I was brand new into a new environment, and they were all quite dubious about the hire. You know, when you walk in, you haven't proven yourself. And I had to present some numbers, coming back to the numbers thing. And about 5 minutes before the meeting, the finance director gave up a separate piece of numbers to the ones, you know, because I've always done my prep, completely different set of numbers. And I sat there in front of all these people looking at me going, and so how are you doing? And I looked at my numbers, I didn't understand a word. It really is cringe, right? I literally looked at it and went, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I just sat there.
Were they like...
Were they testing you?
They were not like same format, different numbers. They were just different, literally laid out different numbers.
Different set of numbers, laid out differently, and 5 minutes before the meeting. Yeah, and it wasn't a malicious.
It wasn't a test.
It wasn't a malicious thing, but I did literally fall over in that meeting, and I remember some other gentleman standing up and going, "Don't worry, I'll explain it for you." As a feminist, you know, all my feminist sensibilities, I was like, why did I just let that happen? But I actually literally died on my feet in my first meeting.
What would you have done differently in having that moment again?
Well, I think you get to the point in your life where you're able to speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
I would have said, I've just been given a set of numbers. They make no sense to me.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you in half an hour.
Yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't have let some gentleman come and talk over me.
Yeah, but that sounds like a right setup to me. It feels like Jack.
It was bad, wasn't it?
I don't think it, because the thing is, you prepared for the meeting.
Usually I'm
perfectly. But oh my God, that's a good one. And again, similar to Nick Beaton, he presented. He did all his homework, presented all the numbers, but all his numbers were forecasting and where they were going to go to. And one of the people around the table said, "What are numbers today?"
It was the CEO.
It was the CEO, and like, what's this? And like, literally, he's going, okay, and what we're going to do at Christmas, and so literally in a retailer, because know it's like
you got to know your
business,
stuff.
you got to know your number. And he came out of that meeting going, I think it was like week 3. He's like, and he said to his boss, "I'm really sorry, I just messed up." He went, "No, that was a good meeting. Now you know you got this. It was just a lesson."
Yeah, mine was just a failure. It wasn't a lesson at all.
Oh my gosh, we've probably got about 5 or 10 minutes left, but we are getting close to time, aren't we?
I think what we were sort of focused on initially was we talk about magpie moments. We sort of couple that up a little bit with sort of work hacks or things that have helped you.
Yes.
Right? You're dealing with, high pressure jobs, senior jobs. You became a CEO for the first time. Obviously, you had good runway with the MD job at Saatchi. You've been through all these. What's advice for people, and how do you handle it? Like, what's your way of handling pressure, and any advice for people who are sort of about to sort of step into some of those roles?
Oh, my word. I did see this in the prep, and I was like, I don't really have
yoga. Maybe just yoga.
Yeah, I actually don't think you're off. I think being physically fit is quite helpful.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about the physical fitness, although that is a nice side effect. It's the mental strain.
It's just the release of.
You have to find ways to get your mental. I have to find ways to get myself mentally cleared again.
Yeah.
It's like clearing all the stuff out, and that's either a run or that is standing in the rain on a Saturday to watch my son play rugby, walking the dog. Those things become disproportionately important, and walking away from it all is super important for me. And I think within the same point, it is also sometimes just to take a beat. My current manager said to me, why do you always say take a beat?
Oh.
And I like, take a beat before you do it. Just take a beat before you respond to the email. Take a beat before you jump onto the solution. Just take a beat and give it a moment's thought. Has become a...
Do you know, it's mine at the minute. And I
Take
said
a
it the
beat.
other day.
It's a nice
phrase. Well, it came... I
Yeah.
watched Blue Lights, which is the...
Maybe that's why.
Honestly, in Blue Lights, the guy, and
Yes.
it's take a beat. And I've said it. I've said it loads of times. That's another good one. It is. It's just that moment where don't
do anything. Don't do anything.
Yeah.
You're facing a problem, just don't do anything for a second.
Yeah.
Maybe longer than a second. I love that. Maybe it's Blue Lights, because I've watched it.
Right, it's him.
Because he was like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm musical.
Yeah, I know. It's from Blue Lights.
But then I can move faster once I've taken that beat. But I do
Yeah.
need a beat sometimes just to have a break and or let the problem just stew a bit.
Yeah.
And then I get to much better outcomes.
You you obviously deal a load with the US. I used to get in the habit of always, any email I sent after about 6 p.m, I'd schedule send it for about 8:30 the next morning.
Yeah.
Because it would give me time
Just to think
in case I was a bit annoyed or anything.
Yeah.
But it gave me a moment.
Taking a
Well, that's
beat.
you taking a beat.
to
Yeah.
That's you
reread. That
taking
was
a
my
beat.
version of taking a beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is really good advice. And also, I remember
Yeah.
John O'Donnell, he's a triathlete, but he would use swimming to work out, go through his diary of the day. So he'd do like a morning swim.
Nice.
He'd use running for almost like creativity. So because you're so focused on the pain that you're in, suddenly like creative thoughts. It's like when people say they have creative thoughts in the shower, don't they? So we'd use running for creativity. And I cannot remember what he used to use cycling for, but then cycling for something else. I don't know. But it's just...
Churn through a problem.
Yes. Problem solving.
Problem solving.
Yeah.
Walk away from it for a bit.
Yeah.
100%. And actually just being present with the family. Like, I've got 2 kids. And, you can sit and go, have I sacrificed too much time away from them? It's that classic thing. But you never get over that. But I tell you, spending time, on the side of the sports field, or listening to my daughter talk about a book excitedly that she's shared with me. Like, these are the things that give me so much joy.
Well,
Everything else gets into
things.
perspective.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
But I think you can
anything
fit
that
those
you-
in. I think if you can fit that, because I've got massive guilt about outsourcing childcare from basically 6 months to actually then lockdown. We still had an au pair in lockdown, which felt a little bit over the top. But it is those little things. So now I've dropped my daughter off at school, and she said, "Oh, thank you so much." And I say to her, I said, "It's my favourite part of the day." And then I remind myself of that Love Actually when when you used to drive her, and it's like my favourite part of the day. But I think it's those little moments, isn't it? And I think we can all feel guilt, and we've all got running around, but it's focused on the little things as much as the big things, isn't it? And just also got to give ourselves a break. My 2 daughters are certainly not harmed from me not being around.
Doing fine.
They seem very happy.
I'm relieved that you're not around more. That's my kids.
Yeah, that's mine as well. That's mine as well.
I've walked round. I was thinking in the last place we lived in for 12 years, I used to walk the dog, same woods, give or take, big woods, but same woods.
Yeah.
And I reflected as we were leaving that place. I was thinking the amount of sort of stress and problems and things that I've churned through while I've walked around these woods, and ultimately come out the other side and solved in some shape or form, is, it just struck me on like how important that kind of just
be out. I'm with you. Dogs and walking.
And I think we'll probably. It's a shame. We really are probably finally. I suppose there is so much change in the industry right now, and we know a lot of people, but from agency or tech, I suppose, or fintech. So the advice to people, because obviously you've got a lot of advice to share. I suppose a bit around change and how you respond on. You can't control everything. Things change. What advice would you give them, or what helped you navigate your change through your career?
Yeah. I do empathize because there's just a ton of change and it's happening at such an accelerated rate.
And everyone.
All the
businesses.
Yeah. Everyone. We had, I think, the CEO of Claude speak with us recently, and he said he feels like his life is going past in fast forward movie at the moment. It's so fast. So I think the way to deal with it is just focus on the controllables without sounding incredibly trite. You can't fix or adjust and I also don't believe in crystal balls. All these people say they know exactly what's going to happen. I'm not sure about the holiday point. I'm not sure about the holiday point. I know we all want to believe that. I don't believe in crystal balls because it's moving so fast and I don't think anyone knows exactly what's coming next. So what is it that you can control? You can be curious, you can learn, you can, do work that's meaningful to you. And the only other piece of advice I would suggest is not to fight the tidal wave, but to ride it. I see I mentor a lot of, I want to say younger people. Yes, it is predominantly younger people and myself. And I always say, look at the P&L, look at the businesses who are growing. Now, put your bets on there. Don't be putting your bets and putting your chips on businesses who are ignoring the tidal wave and or trying to swim against it. Be working with the people who are into it. Oh, I just said that.
Into it. I'll tell you what, your PR people are going to love you for that. I think we're going to have to end on that.
Please don't end on that.
Oh, no, let's do it because your PR people will be very, very happy. But Leigh, wow, that was, what?
Thank you so much.
Fun.
It's so lovely chatting to you.
It's a pleasure. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Of course.
That's all we've got time for. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to Mentor and share it with someone navigating their own leadership story.
But more importantly, if you need a little bit of advice in your own business, then be sure to come to TheZoo.London. We can help you with exec search and consulting support.
We can indeed. And don't forget, we love to hear about your mentors. So do drop us a line on our socials listed in the podcast description. And please give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. And a big thank you to Viral Tribe Entertainment Production, who are our kind producers of Mentor. So a big thank you to them.
Podcast mentors.
Podcast mentors. So do please join us next time for more pearls of wisdom from Mentor.